Over the last 9 months, I have visited 31 states and 6 Canadian provinces over the course of 37,000 miles, and I can now say, without a shadow of a doubt, that it is 100% possible to road trip everywhere on an EV, and I have done so in my 2023 Polestar 2. I'm going to review this car over the course of the next 20 or so minutes, but I don't like to beat around the bush. I love this car. That is my too long didn't watch. If you are a tech enthusiast who likes reliability, good range, decent enough charging, and the ability to get you anywhere you want to go, I think the Polestar 2 is the car for you. However, if you want more in-depth detail, keep watching because there's a lot to talk about. Let's start with the basics. This is a 2023 Polestar 2, long-range single-motor version. It goes 0 to 60 in about 7 seconds. There is a dual-motor option though that goes to about 4 seconds if you really want to go fast. I don't regret my choice, especially because 0 to 60 in 7 seconds is more than fast enough if you're trying to get in the highway. It's faster than pretty much any commercial gas car to exist. And the dual motor version cuts range. It's about 20 to 60 miles depending on how you drive, but for me, I'm pushing this car to the limits, and I need to have as much possible range as I can physically manage. Now, this Polestar has the Pilot package, which essentially means there are 4 cameras around the vehicle, one in the nose, one in the mirrors, one in the back, to keep you centered in your lane, to keep you properly distanced from the next vehicle, and to give you great parking access. If you're getting a Polestar, honestly, if you're getting any new car, I would highly recommend having 360-degree cameras and lane keep assist, because it is a lifesaver, especially when you're on long stretches of highways, and paying attention to the road is just not exactly what you want to be doing. Pay attention to the road at all times. This thing is not co-pilot or autopilot. It simply enhances your ability to drive. Now, there are those that say they don't like lane keep assist, and absolutely, if you don't want it, don't have it. But for anyone who is able to trust technology to a point, it relieves a lot of that mental burden of driving a car, especially on those long, flat stretches where there's no one around you. You have to keep a hand on the wheel, of course, but it makes things easier for sure. What I would love to see from this car is a Sentry mode, any kind of dash cam. We have the hardware, 4 cameras, surrounding the vehicle entirely. And yet, even as a Tesla Model 3 competitor, it's not giving me a Sentry mode. It has the hardware, it has the software. If it's really trying to be the Tesla Model 3 competitor, which it is positioning itself as, I would love to see that addition to its features. You can even keep it paywalled behind the Pilot package, I don't care, because the Pilot package is the only one that has these cameras. But I would like to see some form of dash cam integrated. Let's talk price. I got this car for $18,000, $20,000 after tax. It was a used Hertz rental vehicle. It had about 41,000 miles on it, and there was a minor fender bender. So it wasn't in perfect condition, but I did my full research on it. I took it into the dealer. I got the battery state of health report checked up on. Right, everything about the vehicle seemed good. I guess the one minor issue is that there are no buttons on the passenger side seat controls, but they still work. You just have to fiddle with the nubs a little bit. The other competitors I was looking at were the Tesla Model 3, the Hyundai Ioniq 6, and the Kia EV6. I didn't go for Tesla because I have moral quandaries with the whole Elon Musk and Tesla being actually a company that's more focused on getting your driving data and providing a good feature set for your driving needs. And Hyundai and Kia were both about $5,000 to $7,000 more on the used market than this Polestar was. I think that's in main part because Polestar chose to start the business off with a lot of selling to fleets, right? If you sell to a fleet, you can get a lot of the cars in production, you can get a lot of that capital and cash flow to start advertising for the normal people. Ultimately though, any of those cars would have done exactly what I wanted, which is getting over 250 miles of range, charging less than 30 minutes, and having a good enough speed to be able to maneuver on the highway. If you want to go for a used Tesla, you can get some nowadays for like $13,000 to $15,000, and they are an incredibly good deal. Although Tesla has been rated as one of the worst longevity speaking vehicles on the market that exists. Worse than Jeep now. But it's all up to you. So let's talk range and charging for a second. This car gets about 300 miles in the summer, about 200 miles in the dead of winter. I was circling Lake Huron over the course of about 6 days, and it was frigid. And in that time, my car was reporting 180 to 190 miles on a full charge. I think it's kind of insane that this car this MSRP $51,000 car doesn't have a heat. That is one of the things that sort of pulled me away from the Polestar brand in the first place, was that I knew that no matter where I went, winter range would be an issue. Other cars like the Hyundai Ioniq 6 have that as standard. Now for those who don't know EVs, having a heat pump is important because an EV does not generate heat the way a gas car does. We're not giving thousands of explosions per second, per minute, to generate forward momentum. We're instead using electricity directly from the battery pack to move us forward, which is incredibly efficient, but also just does not produce heat. So you can't just turn on the cabin heating and assume the engine will heat it up. Instead, what a lot of EVs have, especially from prior to 2023, is something called resistive heating, which runs a lot of electricity through a certain kind of metal that heats up the metal. It's 1-to-1. The amount of electricity you put in, the amount of watts of heat you're getting out. However, there are other ways of heating, such as heat pumps, which are essentially AC units run in reverse. And these can operate at 2, 3, 500% efficiency, and you're getting out a lot more heat than you're putting in. So, since this car has resistive heating, I'm actually getting several dozens of fewer miles of range when I turn the heat, which has caused a lot of issues with my personal comfort, and I know the comfort of others. My mother, for example, she drives a 2013 electric Smart for 2. It gets about 70 miles of range on a good spring day. She does not run the heat in the dead of the winter, and she is freezing because of it. Even though she could absolutely make it to her destination and back, simply turning on the heat feature will lower the mileage from 71 to about 45. And that amount of anxiety really shouldn't happen. Give us heat pumps so that we can reduce the anxiety for these otherwise luxurious vehicles. Oh, and on the topic of charging, this car isn't really the best, right? It came out in 2023, so it's kind of modern and new, and it has a lot of that ability to charge at 150 kilowatts, but only up to about 40% state of charge, then it drops significantly. So essentially, you're not going to be charging that much after 60 or 70%. And when you get to 90%, forget about it. If you're road tripping in this car, you maybe want to drive it until it's about 20%, then charge it until it's about 60%. Otherwise, you're just wasting time. Now, something I really applaud about Polestar is their accessibility to wireless functionality without a subscription. Other manufacturers like Kia and Hyundai will require used vehicles to spend about $10 to $30, depending on your tier, per month to maintain access to basic features like climate pre-acclimatization and remote unlock, remote start through the phone app. Also, they require payment for your 4G LTE connection with the car. This car is a highly advanced piece of machinery that has a 4G signal, and I very much appreciate that Polestar is dedicated to keeping that free for the life of the vehicle. But Polestar, I know you can change this at any time. Please don't. I'm serious. That would really suck if you guys added a subscription to this car. Though on the topic of technology, this car isn't really the most accessible for the aged and less technologically competent populations. Sure, I know how to use it because I've been using a phone my whole life. And I do appreciate the fact that I have YouTube and Chrome and Spotify on my car that sync directly with my phone, and I have this interface where I can engage from my phone while walking up to the car and then seamlessly transition to the car as soon as I get in. I love that it has 4G LTE, that I can, access the internet even from the midst of nowhere when my phone has no signal. But this antenna up here is much stronger than my phone's, and I still get the ability to engage with the internet, even in the most remote of places. For the aged though, it's a pretty low car, right? It's kind of hard to get in and out of if you have trouble bending your knees or with greater mobility. I have no issue with it personally, but I have now driven several of the aged who find difficulty getting in and out of the passenger seat. And especially with my seating position as low as I like it, I could not imagine any of them driving this car. However, with this being a software-defined car, there are some gripes that I have, especially with the software. I'm going to read them off because there are a lot to talk about, but ultimately, you have to remember that they are forgivable. These aren't things that are debilitating or will cause the vehicle to stop functioning, but with the functionality that I'm given, these shouldn't be an issue. Especially if I was buying this car new, I would hate to arrive this car and see this issue. So, here they are. The adaptive cruise control. It's pretty stupid. I know that this isn't co-pilot or, full autonomous driving, but I would like it to not pull off of the highway whenever there's an off-ramp. I would like to know which line to follow and to follow it. It's also pretty bad at picking up those lines, but that's less important. The audio system. It intermittently cuts out. I don't know why, I don't know how, but about 1 in every 50 times, 50, that I enter the car, the audio system just shuts down entirely. Which wouldn't be too much of an issue except for the fact that I use the audio system for my maps. And also the audio system is used for critical functions like the turn signals or the hazard sound. Regardless, this shouldn't be an issue. The audio system should not function as poorly as it does, as much as it does. I consider that to be one of the critical components in the car. And the fact that I have to do a full restart of the car's infotainment system, which is not intuitive by the way, mind you, it's a bit frustrating. And it's only happened twice in the entire time I'm using this car, one of which was after I'd come back from over the Canadian border. But there are times, 2 times specifically, where the 4G connectivity will shut down entirely. There are forums saying how you can fix it or how you can reset the system, but none of those solutions have worked on my car, and there is, as of my knowledge, no officially published Polestar supported way of restarting your connectivity suite. It wouldn't be too much of an issue except for the fact that it controls the GPS. I can't use my maps with it. I can't connect my phone with it. I can't do any remote start with it. The only solution that I found is simply locking the car, walking away for about 2.5, 3 hours, and when I come back, it's suddenly working again. I'm guessing some of the capacitors have had time to reset or something. I don't know the technical details. Then the final thing, and this is a personal gripe, more than a real gripe about this car, is that I'm camping in this car regularly, and there's no way to keep the climate on. If I walk out of the car, it turns off. If I stay in the car, it turns off after 40 minutes. I have the ability to set on a timer when the car can turn to a specific temperature, but I can't control that temperature. It's always 72 degrees Fahrenheit, and no matter what season, I can't adjust that. I can't adjust how long it stays on. I would love the ability, because this is an electric vehicle, and I don't have risk of putting carbon monoxide into my cabin, I would love the ability to have the climate on whenever I choose. Sorry, I actually have one more gripe about Polestar, which is that I hate its dealer network. Polestar is owned by Volvo and Geely. Volvo, and Geely is an electric car manufacturer out of China. But it's presented on the North American market with practically all Volvo parts. And yet, there are very few Polestar service centers and very few Polestar certified technicians. I can only go to very specific Volvo service centers and get an appointment with very specific people to get service on this vehicle. Thankfully, I've only had to do that once, and that was when I first got the car and I needed a new key, which cost $600. The technology of this car does make it a bit more expensive at times for repairs. Thankfully, the dealer paid for it. But now that I've been driving all around the eastern side of the United States, outside of the East Coast, you might have to drive for a couple 100 miles to find a Polestar service center. There are them in every major populated city, but it's not enough. Especially if you want to try to sell this car to a rural population without documentation or the ability to work on it yourself. You need to get that dealership working a lot better than it is. I'd wait a week and a half for a location that was in Minneapolis. I didn't need any service done. I wanted a battery checkup under warranty. My own personal paranoia from this trip. But the fact that it was such a bothersome and cumbersome process to deal with these dealer networks is a stain on Polestar's otherwise great vehicle. There's a bit of simplicity that I believe has been lost with the Polestar. The simplicity of choice. In old gas vehicles, you could turn that key on and you could let that car idle until it ran out of gas. It would have no issue. You could open the door while you were doing highway speeds. It wouldn't yell at you. Has the inclusion of technology made our vehicles objectively safer? Absolutely. But I find there's also a reduction in the personal choice that I have come to appreciate about a vehicle. This car has one drive mode, drive. You can adjust the steering feel to make it lighter or softer. You can adjust the regen feel to make it more or less powerful. You can turn on or off traction control. But that's about it. It drives exactly the way that it wants to and responds with its predetermined controls. I don't feel as though I can personalize this car and make it my own because the software is extremely locked down and the hardware doesn't give me much to work with. Is it a competent vehicle that I feel safe, secure, and comfortable with? Absolutely. But for any gearheads that like to tinker, I don't think this is your kind of car. There are absolutely other electric vehicles on the market that you can tinker with and have fun with, especially if you want to do a EV swap. But that's beside the scope of this vehicle. I think what really matters is that this is a great electric vehicle, perfectly suited for the North American market, with great range, great style, great color options, fairly high price, but on the used market, it's unbeatable. I see no issue with having this car as a daily driver. I can confidently say that this car has enabled me to continue my journey beyond what any other vehicle could have. Sure, there are the other electric vehicle brands. Sure, there are the other gas car brands. But ultimately, I feel confident and comfortable with my Polestar. Not because I've existed with it for 9 months, but because I've kind of formed a bond with it. It's bad in the ways that are fun, and it's great in the ways that it doesn't make me have to think about doing those long stretches. It gives me control when I want it, and will happily take the wheel when I ask it. Although don't let it take the wheel without your supervision. Again, this is not a full self-driving car. Would I prefer a 1,000-mile range, 4-wheel drive, and the ability to go 0 to 60 in 2 seconds? Absolutely. But do you or I have the budget for that? No. So let's not focus on what we wish our ideal EV was, and instead consider what an EV needs to do. For all intents and purposes, this EV is suited for the North American market, and you can have one for yourself today for $17,000 or $18,000. I saw a listing that was $16,000 just yesterday. The used car market for EVs is going up, especially with the current issues with gas prices. But I am confident that as EV technology continues to proliferate, we get the supply chains down, we reduce the battery prices, which have already reduced by over 90% in the last decade. These cars will not only be more affordable, they will be better. Don't wait for the next big thing in EV technology, because what we have right here is proof that you can make do with what we have, and you can make great work out of it. Thank you.